I was just session in my garage, and it reminded me of when I was a kid. And I used to do tricks in my garage back when I lived with my parents, and was feeling pretty nostalgic. So I decided I was gonna go through some old memories I was just thinking about and put them in a tier list. Thought it might be fun to reminisce about how all the good memories I had from when I was just a little Yoon rat growing up. So the first one here is a picture of a Sun unicycle. First unicycle I ever got was a Sun unicycle, and I got it for my birthday, but nobody in my life nobody wanted to get me the unicycle for a birthday present because they all thought that I would never do it ever. And so I had to save up all my money for a whole year to buy it for myself on my 12th birthday. And then my dad drove me to a bike shop, and I bought the unicycle for $100. And I was really confident, and I tried to ride it, and I couldn't ride it. And then I put the unicycle away in my garage for 6 months because it crushed my ego. So that's like a C tier memory. Probably like a C. The next one is this one over here. So after a couple months of the unicycle just sitting there and me trying to forget about it, one of my friends at school and at Sunday school, he told me that he got a unicycle too because he heard that I had one, and he learned to ride it in like one afternoon. Which made me feel worse at first, but then it made me get the unicycle back out and learn to ride it. And then once I learned, we decided to go try it out together at my school. We decided to ride around the school, and we decided when we took them to the school, these high school kids were playing tennis and handball, and they were probably like seniors, like cool kids, and every time they would see us ride near them, they would shout as loud as they could. They were shouting, "Take the seat off! Take the seat off!" And I was in like seventh grade. So I didn't understand what the joke was or why it was funny. But then, like a couple months later, I was laying in bed at night, and I realized why they were telling me to take the seat off, and I felt really bad about it. So that one's probably like a B tier memory because at least it's not like a "where's your other wheel" joke or something like that. The next one is this one over here. So after I'd been riding for like a year and I learned how to crank flip, I started practicing back crank flips, but I was doing them with two hands on the seat. Hey, stop barking. I'm trying to tell stories. And I was riding with some of my friends one day, and I was doing backflips, and I broke my seat post. And at first I was really bummed, but then I ended up telling my parents that I ruined the whole unicycle. I told them that the unicycle was no good anymore because I broke the seat post. And then a couple weeks later, since they knew how much I loved unicycling, they got me a Chris Holm Trials unicycle for a present. At first I felt kind of guilty because I lied about it, but definitely that when I opened that box, I could have cried. At how perfect it looked. That is an S tier memory. It was worth it. I would do it all again the same way. I would lie right in their face about it to get the Chris Holm unicycle again. The next memory, this one over here, is about this time. So this was after I had the Chris Holm Trials unicycle. Hey, and one of my friends who was kind of into it, but who wasn't as into it as I was riding with him at my elementary school. And there was this really big slide that I wanted to jump off of, but I was worried that if I did it on my unicycle, I would break it. Like I was worried I would ruin my unicycle. So I asked him if I could borrow his, and he said yes. And it was probably like a 7-foot drop, and I asked him a couple times. Like, I didn't tell him that I thought it was gonna break, but it had like splined, like the cranks were like plastic. It was an Avenir mountain unicycle, and I was like, "Dude, are you sure you're okay with this? Maybe Polo." I was like, "Dude, are you sure that you're cool with this? Maybe it could break." And he said yes, so I could still sleep at night. But I did the drop, and the cranks, they just snapped right off. Both of the cranks snapped right off, and he had the unicycle for like a month. And he was crying. He was crying about it, and I didn't know what to do. And then his dad had to come pick us up. So that's probably like a B tier memory. So the next one over here was about this time when I was in 8th grade now, and I was like getting better at unicycling, and it was like October, and one of my friends had this really cool hat that I liked, and one day I had saved up enough to order one of the hats, and I came home from school, and it was there, and it was this beanie, this maroon beanie that had a brim on it, so like if it was cold outside, and the brim was like this wide, so like if the sun was almost directly overhead, you could use it for like a tiny bit of shade. It just mostly looked cool. That's why I wanted it. And I came home from school, and I was so pumped about the hat that I went out and I landed my very first ever varial roll to outside roll, and I filmed it and put it on YouTube. and in the description said, "My landing a very hard combo." I made a typo. It was supposed to say me landing, but I said my landing. And I went to sleep that night. Like, I couldn't wait to see the comments the next day. And I woke up the next day, and I had a comment from this guy who I really looked up to. His name was Daniel Sarzosa, and his YouTube channel was called Unicycling Buddy. And I woke up and I had this comment from him that just said, "This isn't hard." And it ruined my whole week. Definitely F tier memory. This one was from 2012. Some of you probably were there. It was at Unicon, and so Unicon was 2 weeks, and it was like just an incredible 2 weeks. But I had been pretty bummed that I didn't do well in the flat comp. Like, I didn't even make it to the battles in the flat comp, and I went into the competition thinking that I was going to do like really well, but I got super nervous, and I just couldn't land anything. So I was all bummed, and then like a day before the Unicon was over, Piper, dude. Like a day before the Unicon was over, I did the first 1260 spin of all time ever, and I was so happy. Like, it was the happiest I've ever been. It happened when I was 17, and now I'm 26. So like, kind of like brutal that I peaked when I was 17. So kind of like probably like a B tier memory. The last one was this time that I came up with this trick mostly as a joke, and I was trying it for a little while in Toronto. One time I went to Toronto, and I was there with David Moscow and like Connor and some other guys, and it was the weekend of a Blue Jays game. And when we were in the city, we got heckled relentlessly, just relentlessly by the people there to see the Blue Jays game. I've never been so brutally heckled, not even by the dudes that were telling me to take my seat off. But while I was there, I came up with a funny trick that I thought would be just like a funny joke to try, which was to do a seat whip, but like start on the tire and then land back on the tire. And I tried it when I was there, and I got close enough that I started thinking about it too much. And then a couple months later, when I was at home, I tried it again with my friends at the skate park, and I got actually really close. And then for 4 days, it was the only thing I could think about. Um, yeah, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then I finally did it, and I totally overreacted to it, and now I'm really embarrassed about it. So, and I named it after myself. It's probably like an A tier memory. Anyway, those are my unicycle memories. So, and I hope you enjoyed my tier list.